Hey there, brothers and sisters. Shalom, that's peace in Hebrew. That's a typical Jewish greeting. And today I want to hopefully be able to encourage you guys. Many of you have found out that the coronavirus measures have been extended to April 30th. So that can be discouraging, especially for those of you who have been in self-isolation for going on your third week now. And to know that now you have to go another month. Well, there's nothing stopping you during this time from taking a drive. And so that's my encouragement for you guys today. Hop in your car and take a drive. That's not against the measures put in place for coronavirus. That's not going to spread the virus. As long as you're, just taking a joyride to the country, enjoying some of the sights, maybe crack your window, enjoy some of that fresh air. I know Monday we got some snow, but really the weather's been beautiful lately, and the roads are great. And gas prices are definitely favorable right now. So take advantage of that. That's my big encouragement to you at this time. And with that, I hope to be able to also offer you more practical ways to grow in your spiritual disciplines. See, some of you've been sparked to really grow in the Spirit. And so the fruits of the Spirit are, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, self-control, those kind of things. And these are things that you can learn while driving. Many of us, we neglect the kind of Christian disciplines that we can gain by practicing them from the safe confines of our car. Instead, we practice things like impatience, anger, throwing up gang signs. You know what kind of gang signs I'm talking about. And we had some sad things happen. I know in a nearby community there was someone that was killed as an effect of road rage. So that's something that we've been praying about. It's very sad when it happens, and it happens more often than you think. Road rage is a serious problem, even for Christians. I know I myself have struggled with it. In fact, what sparked this on was I was sitting in a men's leadership meeting, and we were talking through the subject of anger. And so most of the men had agreed that they didn't really struggle with anger until the subject of driving came up. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, I struggle with anger, especially when someone tailgates me or when someone's driving really slow in a passing lane or whatever else. And so these kind of things can get under our skin. And we may think that getting angry at these things or getting impatient with these people when they get in our way or when they pressure us doesn't affect our everyday life, but it really does. It will leak into other areas of life. I know I've scared my wife plenty of times while driving with her, just because of my road rage. Now, I wasn't throwing up middle fingers. I wasn't honking or anything, but I was yelling from the safe confines of my driver's side. And that began to work into my life with how I handled people, how I handled difficult people, how I handled obstacles that slowed me down in life. I would get much more angrier at them. And I realized that God had given me those circumstances to prune myself, to grow, and to affect that. So here's this somewhat of my challenge for you today. I want to share a joke with you. I learned it from Pastor Landon over at Mattawamkeg. A shout out to him. I don't know where the joke originally originates from, but there's a lady driving her Christian minivan. I know you're thinking, how can a van be Christian? You know what kind of vans I'm talking about. It's the van with the dad and the mom, and then it's got the trail of kids that extends to the point where it can't all fit on the back window because the family's so big. It's got to wrap around the side of the van. It's got the honk if you love Jesus on it. It's just, the van's been anointed. Let's just put it that way. And so in this particular story, this lady's driving her minivan with all these stickers on it, and the car in front of her is moving impossibly slow, and she can't get past them, so she's wailing on the horn, she's throwing up her middle finger and things like that, and then the car behind her lights up like a blue Christmas tree. She's in trouble. She pulls over, the cop runs out of the car, runs over to her driver's side with his gun drawn, and he's yelling, "Get out of the car, get out of the car." And so she's nervous. She fumbles out of the car. Her hands are up and everything. And she gets arrested and taken to jail that day. And the next day, the cop lets her out of the holding cell and apologizes. He goes, "I'm sorry. The way you were driving and seeing your bumper stickers, I thought your car was stolen." So there's a funny story I'd heard from Pastor Landon. But I just thought it was very applicable to this message. Now let's talk about how we respond to these different circumstances while we're driving. And maybe you don't drive, you don't have your license or whatever else. These are still things that you can practice in everyday life, because the circumstances that you're put in while driving are relatable to circumstances that you're going to encounter with different people throughout your life. Everybody's trying to achieve their own goals in life, and a result to that is going to be that some people are going to get in your way, and you're going to get in some other people's way. And their reaction to you getting in their way may not be motivating. I'll put it that way. So let's break this down. When someone slows you down in life, let's say you're trying to get somewhere and someone's driving impossibly slow, and your temptation may be to blaze past them, make it obvious that they were in your way, or in some other cases, if you can't get past them or you just don't feel like blazing past them, you tailgate them. You try to pressure them to drive your speed. This can definitely relate to us in the church. We're all trying to live for Jesus. At least I hope you're trying to live for Jesus. Maybe you're in a time of trying to rediscover your faith. You're diving deeper into the Word and things like that. So maybe that's the stage you're at. But for those that are past that stage and are fully convinced of what they believe, they're trying to live the Christian life. They're trying to follow the teachings of the Bible. And every now and then, someone catches fire in a good way, where they're just sparked by the Holy Spirit, they're sparked by the Word, and they're excited to do things for Jesus. They're excited to get out there and reach as many people for Jesus as they can. The tendency when you reach that point in your spiritual faith is to look around to other people who you see are dragging their feet. They're not sharing the gospel with everybody, things like that. It can be aggravating for you. And you feel like they're slowing down the cause of Christ in your church. A tendency in these ways is sometimes to move on from that person, to blaze past them, and instead of trying to encourage them and get them on board with you, you blaze past them and you move on. I know in some cases this was people that were discontent with the current church they were in, and so they were like, the pastor isn't preaching Jesus like I want him to, so I'm just going to go to another church where the pastor is doing what I want him to do. And so that's happened. I know a few friends that have had that happen. Some people, they spark a whole other church out of this discontentment with their current church's spiritual emphasis. Another thing is when you're trying to reach a particular goal in life, you're trying to further your dream, whatever that is. You're trying to break into a certain industry, but there's things dragging you down. Maybe their work's not going so well and you have to stay over at work. Well, your tendency is to get mad at your job, or maybe your wife or your kids drag you down, or there's many things that can come into our life that can slow us down with our goals that we want to reach. But we have to realize at the end of the day, life is not about us. It's about Him, the one who created us, and it's about His glory. And so if there's things in your life that slow you down, God is trying to tell you something. Take that moment to learn something from what He's trying to show you. And so when you're driving and that person's slowing you down in front of you, see that as a chance to grow in patience. That is a time to learn how to deal with that. If there's a safe way to pass them, then go ahead and pass them. But at the same time, don't try to pressure them to break their personal convictions. If they're driving 3 miles over the speed limit and you want them to drive 10 over the speed limit, don't tailgate them. That's not going to achieve the great purpose. And I know my tendency, if I can't get past somebody, would be to either pressure them to go faster or to drive past them. But through this process, I've been trying to take a step back, and I use that time as a time to grow in patience. Maybe I'll even slow down and give them some space so they don't feel pressured by me, because I don't want to pressure them to break their personal convictions. This does leak over into how you react to other people in their faith. Maybe someone's had a huge discouragement in life, and they're just trying to get back on the right track. They're not ready to go out there and start evangelizing to everybody they see. They're not ready to start leading a Bible study. Right now, they're trying to recover spiritually because maybe they lost someone dear to them. We have to be spiritually discerning with people. Are they idle? Then yes, give them a little encouraging kick. Try to get them in the right motion. If they're faint-hearted, rather than giving them a kick, try to be someone they can lean on, someone they can go to. Don't let your compassion be compromised, especially if it's of the Spirit. The Spirit does not lead us into impatience. It does not lead us into being divisive or to being discouraging. That's not the way that works. The fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, patience, kindness, self-control. Ring a bell? So if you feel filled with the Spirit and you're not showing these fruits, you have to reevaluate if you're being filled with the Spirit or being filled with your own particular goals. Now, let's move on from that. Let's say someone's tailgating you. There's a couple of tendencies here for us. If someone's tailgating us, we either, one, we're pressured to drive faster than we normally would be comfortable with, or we in an act of spite, we slow down and try to slow them down and mess up their day, which just makes things miserable for both of us. I find really we're a nation of crabs, and so what I mean by that is there was a time when I was 15, I went to this crab boil. Sounds ritzy, but I was with my uncle at the time, and he had a couple of rich friends who were having a birthday party, so we went over to this crab boil, and they had pots and pots of crabs, live crabs actually. And the pots weren't even lidded. And we were on an open beach, so the possibility of them getting out and escaping seemed very likely, but you never had to worry about a single crab getting out of those pots. And the reason why is because as soon as one reached the top and almost got out, the other crabs would reach up and grab it and drag it down. Who knew crabs are very jealous creatures? And that imagery just kind of stuck with me ever since, and I've thought that's really how we are as people. When someone's getting ahead of us or someone's doing better than us or whatever else, our tendency is to try to drag them down. Or when someone's getting on our tail or pressuring us, our tendency is to drag us both down. And so this is a typical human reaction, which we have to get past. We need to break that selfishness and instead live to further other people, live to encourage them. And so this has really been a challenge for me because when someone tailgates you, it's very frustrating. But in this time, you can learn how to prune yourself to instead be someone who doesn't cave to pressure. What happens when someone tries to influence you to do something, or they keep pressuring you to break a particular conviction? Maybe your conviction is that you don't drink alcohol, and you're hanging with a friend who just continues to pressure you to have a drink with them, and you eventually cave. See, driving actually can affect that. It can affect your ability to say no and live according to the convictions that you're led by. When someone's pressuring you to drive faster, but you continue to drive the speed that you were set and comfortable with driving, that builds in you a proper endurance when it comes to handling pressures. When someone blazes past you and goes past you, your reaction to that will influence how you handle someone who's blazed past you in life or moved on from you. Are you able to still encourage them? Are you able to still hope them the best instead of hoping they crash down the road or they get pulled over by a cop? We need to be motivated by love and a care for other people and a compassion. So I want to encourage you guys to exemplify the fruits of the Spirit in your driving. Not just in your driving, but in your everyday life. This leaks over into so many other things. And this is why I say, even if you don't drive, even if you don't have a license, these are things that are very applicable to everyday life. How do you handle these pressures? How do you handle when a particular circumstance or something slows you down in life? How are you going to handle that? And this all pours down into this. We need to exemplify not anger and patience, discouragement and division, but love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and self-control. Those are the fruits of the Spirit. So I encourage you this week, people, be Spirit-filled. Love people. Have compassion for them. Also, don't slow your speed. Continue to go after and reach people for Jesus. Dive into your word. Enjoy the Bible. Enjoy what God has for you this week, even in the midst of self-isolation. Thankfully, we still have internet. Thankfully, we still have cars that we're able to drive and enjoy, and gas prices are lower than ever. Enjoy a drive. Enjoy the country. But alongside that, when you do hit that roadblock, when you do hit that bit of traffic, or that person that gets in your way or pressures you, use it as a chance to grow spiritually. Hard times are coming. When this isolation lifts, who knows what we're in for? So take this time to grow and draw closer to God. I love you guys, and God bless. Stay healthy. Stay safe. All right, so my wife's here to help with sharing some of the prayer requests that we have today. We have a little bit of a list here, so um, let's get into the mindset of prayer. April, she has asked us to pray for her. She's been feeling kind of ill recently. Along with that, Linda Osgood and her dad both have had persistent colds over the past month or so, so they would like some prayer for that as well. Um, and with that, with April, she has a mother and a daughter in Idaho when they've just experienced a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. Thankfully, to this moment, I can't speak of after this moment, there's no reports of damage or injuries. That happened yesterday. It was enough to startle everybody, but other than that, it seems everybody's fine. So praise God for his protective hand, and that his will be done through that. I'm sure he's trying to get people's attention in some way. Also, just keep Marion and John Murray in your prayers as well, as both of them are experiencing congestive heart failure. And that's hard on them, and that's hard on their families. So be praying for that.
Also, we have unspoken requests that came through. I would just encourage you guys to just lift that up in prayer. God knows. But also just be praying for those around you and those that you care about. Just continue to lift them up in prayer. These are trying times. I would also ask for prayer for healthcare staff, nurses, doctors, those who are really on the front lines of this coronavirus. Pray for their safety and their protection so that hospitals can keep running, but also pray that the gospel will be able to go forth through this. I also would ask that you guys would pray for those who are living alone during this self-isolation time. It's a little bit more difficult when you have nobody with you, when you're trapped indoors. So lift them up in prayer, but also send them an encouraging note. Whether you can write a letter or even give them a call. Think of those who are by themselves at this time and really reach out and try to encourage them.
That's right. We're still the body. So praise God. Have a good week. Stay safe. Stay healthy. God
we
bless.
miss you.